Oh, and just for an update on Ben Schomburg's spread, it was 2 to start the day. It is now 6. So he has triple the spread that he used to. I just want to get that
Wow.
out there.
Well done. The spreading never stops. The chat has pointed out there appears to be a typo involving Jesse Day's record. Let's just make sure that's actually correct here. Let's see, 5. Yeah, because Evan's got 16 games as far as his record. Jesse has got 15. I'm guessing Jesse Day is at 11 and 5.
I'm on mute. Sorry, he's 10-6. That
10
should
and
say
6.
10-6.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Joel Sherman says, any chance you can find out why there were 4 buys in TWL Division 1 in round 15? Excellent question. We can possibly fire off an inquiring message to the directors in that room. I'm only directly connected to the folks in the Collins room. My apologies, but thank you for the heads up on that. We can hopefully find out for you relatively shortly.
Yeah, we don't have great visibility since some of us are in a different room, some of us are in a different hotel, and some of us are on a different continent. So, you know.
So opening rack here, Jesse Day's got Iambi with Oi left over, lined up. We've got a yo from Binac. Is that a reference to Jesse Day's leftover letters or just a general yo sup to everyone in the chat? We'll go with the latter and assume it's that. Welcome to the chat. Great to have you here.
Interesting opening rack for Jesse. It looks like Iambi is the best play. I mean, there's also Moby, M-O-B-Y, but you don't want to keep A-I-I as a leave, probably.
Well, you don't really want to keep OY as a leave either, but...
Yeah, I know. It's rough. All right, he does go with Iambi. Interesting basketball trivia for anybody in chat. You see Jesse Day is currently wearing the Golden State Warriors uniform number 5. Who wears number 5 for the Warriors? I'll give you a hint. It's not Steph Curry. It's not anybody really famous. This is an obscure one. All right, so let's see what Evan has got here. A weird rack, that's what. 2 U's. Kind of some funky consonants as well.
Yeah, not really any great plays jumping out at me here. Obviously, it would be ideal to get rid of both the U's, but all the ways of doing that I've come up with at least pretty low scoring.
Yeah, I see a suggestion of up-built.
Up-built, okay, nice.
Yeah. There's also build-up, which plays off the D instead of the T for an extra 1 point. Yeah. Or I guess up build is an extra 1 point. Yeah, up build is 16.
Yeah, that looks like a pretty good play. 16 is not a lot of points either, but it does clear the rack, and 16 is pretty good, relatively speaking.
For the plays that don't use both the U's, Zev Kaufman has suggested plot it as a possible play.
How much is plotted? 20? I think you probably still prefer up build. Plotted does take an E as well. And it keeps the U. Do it. That seems well, it's obviously defensive, but that's not necessarily a problem. But keeping the U, it's a bit unfortunate. He does draw the C, the hook onto the end of IMB.
So the highest scoring option here for Jesse is Oni, O-N-Y, on top making Obi. And that might just be the best play. I mean, it gets rid of one of your two N's. I think maybe INRR is as decent a leave as you can hope for, really.
Oh, well, the interesting thing about Oni is that it's going to let up curls. fit on the
Oh,
board.
sad. Yeah,
Up curls doesn't currently fit because IMB doesn't
yeah,
take
low
an
buy
S.
and snit. That's right. Look at that. Yeah, that would be unfortunate, but I think it's probably the right play for Jet. And he does have ONY lined up on his rack.
AODHQ says, "Duit in Irish just means to you." Would I then correctly interpret the AODH as the first part of Aiden, as in the Irish spelling of Aiden, or am I just seeing things there? Also looks like there were some guesses as far as the number 5 on Jesse Day's jersey. Matthew Tunnicliffe asks, is it Vince Carter? Noah Slatkoff asks, is it Otto Porter? And then Akrater cheekily says Steph Pad Thai.
Yeah, y'all are all wrong. I think the Vince Carter was a troll guess, but that's fine. The answer is Kevon Looney. That was a hard question. Looney's like kind of their part-time starting center, good defense and rebounding guy. Not one of their star players, but Jesse's a hipster, so he's got to have the obscure uniform and not the Klay Thompson, Steph Curry ilk. All right. Anyway, Jesse, thinking about irony. Is there a spot to play irony that makes any sense? He seems to have that lined up on his rack.
Not seeing anything immediately.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think there's a spot to play irony, period.
Yeah.
Makes sense or otherwise.
All right, here comes Oni, and he's going to be sad in a minute.
Fortuitous turn of events for Evan with that.
Interestingly, every single play has scored 20 points so far. 20, 20, 20. I think that streak's going to end right now. Unless he plays up curl and forgets to put the S down and hits his clock. That would be 20 points.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's not going to happen.
Yeah, probably not. Maybe his hand slips and the S just goes flying off the board and he doesn't notice and he like plays up curl by accident.
And Jesse Day is looking at a pretty tight board already and down some points.
Yep, I think he's just going to have to dump the Q for a pretty weak score.
Yeah.
Something through that U, like Quare or Choir. He's going to score 14 most likely. Scott in chat is pointing out that push-up is a word, but curl-up is not. I think that's because a push-up is a thing and a curl-up is not a thing. That's probably why, Scott.
Yeah, at least if we're talking gym bro, curl up is definitely not a thing. You'd be doing curls, but curls are always up. It's kind of a repetitive, redundant thing to say curl up because curls aren't down. They're always up, and then you would go back down after curling up.
Looks like Jesse has Quern lined up on his rack. I'm curious whether he thinks keeping a 2-vowel leave like AIR is better than keeping a 2-consonant leave like ANR. I guess another consideration here is like which one you think is easier for your opponent to overlap. Like to overlap Quern, you would need to play multiple vowels. So it's like a little bit more of a specific thing you've got to have, but I don't know.
Bynack points out, Jesse's curls are down. Yes, those curls, those luscious locks, those are going down, definitely.
I wouldn't mind just playing Qua here, Quay, I guess actually, because if you look at the board, you're keeping 1 point tiles. Ideally, you draw a bingo next turn, but where are you gonna play it?
Yeah.
If you play after Quern, most likely Evan is going to play something next to Quern, and then if you need to draw an S or the X, I guess it's some unlikely scenario to really have hooks for the other side of the board. Whereas Qua kind of forks the board.
So this position is a Wiggles puzzle. There is a play that is 10 points better than everything else. Not super easy to spot, but who sees the play that scores 30 here? I didn't see it. I cheated. Looks like Evan isn't going to see it either. Yeah, the play is
Loipe,
yeah,
L-I-P-E, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. You're either doing that or you're fishing with your 2 vowels, and Evan is going to fish with his 2 vowels. But yeah, Loipe was the star play there.
And it was spotted in our chat. Very good.
Oh, nice job by the chat. Oh, yeah, Muffin, there you go. Yellow Muckles as well. All right, so OE for 14, and Evan is now up by, 55 points here. Both players kind of struggling with too many vowels. But Evan has that blank and the lead, so advantage to him right now, obviously. Not a lot of great options here. Evan just played OE. Jesse might also play OE. He's got OE for 10 as one possible play.
Strong.
I know, right? Really strong. If you want to get crazy with it, you can play Eonic, Aeonic, for
Let's
18.
not get ahead of ourselves here. That's way too many points.
Way too much of an open board, right? Oh my gosh.
It's interesting you can't spell Eonic without the A.
Oh yeah, that's weird, huh? Why that is. Oh, he does play Eonic. Nice.
Does that give Evan a 9 timer?
Does not.
Okay.
I'm just getting a text from Scott that shows a link to a website about curl ups. He's just proving that I'm wrong, I guess. Scott, I am not going to read that. I don't care. Moving along.
Oh. Well, in this case, curl-ups is either spaced apart by 2 words or hyphenated, to be fair.
There is a hyphen. That's right. Aha.
Yeah. Whereas push-ups has entered more common parlance and written English without the hyphen. But yes, usually if you're going to be a purist, push-up and chin-up are both hyphenated in the original, but they both have been so commonized, made more common, pardon me, that you see them without the hyphen now, together as one word.
All right. So the best plays here for Evan involve hooking the D onto EN to make end. And then you can play any 7 starting with a D. So delis and delier and so on.
Well, plays through the A. In the chat, we had a suggestion of re-allied.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works too.
I mean, he's going to be ahead by 100 points. I don't think you want to play END and go down. That makes the board wide open.
Oh, that's right. Reality is 74. Okay, yeah, you should do that. That's fine.
Yeah. OLA'd would be the like nice fun one, but doesn't score as much.
Oh yeah, Reality is for sure.
Iliad. We talked about this.
Yes. Iliad,
Oh,
yes,
man.
for the pronunciation that they want with all the bajillion spellings.
Well, we have the benefit of using computers and knowing that there is no triple through that A, but if you're a human over the board, it takes some time to figure that out. I see Evan currently writing on his score sheet a lot. I'm sure he's writing down alphograms and checking for bingos and just making sure he's not missing anything.
Sonic Rick mentions, does any of the commentators have a scoop on the 541-point tie between David Eldar and Wolfram Poe? No, but that sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, we will look into that. Wow.
Well, I mean, I'm in the Singapore Scrabble group chat. So Poe reports. I have a picture of the board, and actually, Wolfram challenged pre-mixing, so gave 5 points and led to a tie. So he would have won without the challenge of pre-mixing.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
But he says he doesn't regret it because I don't know. Maybe he doesn't think that pre-mixing is a word.
Was pre-mixing played at the end of the game?
No, it was. It looks like it was towards the start.
Oh, okay.
Might have been an extension of premix. Based on the shape of the board, yeah. Jeremy Hildebrandt says, Evan is writing his sports column while he's tournamenting.
Nice.
Do you mean like right now, in the middle of the game?
That's him. That's Jeremy being cheeky, just because Evan was taking lots of notes, probably working through alphograms. But Evan also does a fair bit of writing.
All right, so a challenge of reality appears to be happening. So we'll give a +5 to Evan, as that is indeed good. So instead of 183, it's going to be 188 to 72.
Surprised to see this challenge. Maybe Jesse's a little bit confused because re-ally without the D is also a word, but that isn't a verb. Oh no, it is a verb. Sorry, it is a verb. Okay, then I don't know why he's challenging. This Jesse knows many words, and re-ally is among the more high probability words, so I'm sure he knows re-ally. 5 points just to be sure.
Yeah,
he's going down. He's going down by a lot. Maybe this is one of those situations where you're like, I'm losing, so I better challenge. Otherwise, I have no chance to win.
A little bit of desperation, yeah. Seems like not a lot of great options for Jesse with his H and his W. It looks like a fun rack for scoring, but there's just on this board not a ton of great ways to use them. You could play like Tohi through the O for 26. That's okay. Or you could just make a small fishy play with the W, I guess. Something like EEW from the E in Realide. Not too impressive, but you don't really have much better.
Well, I'd also be thinking about how to open up the board on this turn, if possible, while managing the rack. You don't have to, necessarily, but it would be nice to be able to open up the bottom of the board, if possible.
That's true. All right, he just plays EEW. I mean, in terms of equity, that's a fine play. Maybe he can figure out the board dynamics later on. Let's see. strange rack for Evan here. J and the Z. Yeah, I see a mention of Razoo in the chat. That's definitely an option. You can play Razoo for 39, since there's that
Jesse would be happy
triple
to
letter
see
below
Razoo.
realm. Oh, Razoo would lead to Botherer. Oh, very nice. Yeah.
Australians have such strange slang. Razoo, an imaginary coin, as in not worth a brass razoo. Do we have any Australians watching that can possibly explain where on earth that came from?
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, we're getting word from the chat that Botherer is not a word. Sad.
No.
Oh,
Yeah, all of us thought it was good, including some people in the chat as well. We're just all wrong.
I wouldn't give that a second look. I was like, Botherer, sounds good.
Yeah, okay, so Razoo is fine. Just play Razoo. You're good.
The long lost cousin of Wanderer 15. There we go. The chat's doing the exact same thing at the same time.
Well,
He's
in that
still
case, Evan
playing,
should
there's
definitely
nothing.
play Razoo because there's a decent chance Jesse will play Botherer.
We've already seen Jesse phony twice on table 1 in the 2 games he's played here.
Oh, he just goes for Azo.
Okay.
Okay.
That also provides a chance for Botherer, so we'll see.
Strong leave from Evan here.
As far as valid plays go, it also gives a spot under GA to make dab. You can play Birth for 48.
Yeah, that's lots of points. I am
Not
in
as
favor.
many as Botherer, or way more than Botherer because Botherer is 0, depending on your perspective.
Jesse resists the temptation to play Botherer, or alternatively doesn't see Botherer.
I think he couldn't be bothered and just went for Birth instead.
How dare you not see all the phonies, Jesse?
Oh, Evan has picked up even more O's. Probably gonna see like GOOR under Birth. Or maybe just GOO. I don't think there's a J play to the triple Akrita.
Yeah, I think you're right that Goo looks just fine.
Oh, nice draw for Jesse.
Ooh.
Trap
Light is
noted.
probably gonna get blocked. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it'll probably get blocked because Goo seems like a fairly likely play among the choices that Evan has. I mean, technically he could play something like Jog and Mug and a Do further down, but I don't see him playing that.
Here's a fun challenge for the chat. If Goo is played, Jesse will have a 94-point bingo in response. Who can find the 94-point bingo?
94. Ooh.
94.
Yeah, not easy to spot. All right, we're not going to see Goo, so it doesn't matter. So the answer was you can overlap Birth with an E, B-E-R-T-H-E. So you can make Perkily, which triples, triples the I, and makes Birth and Gur for 94. Tough to spot.
So, isn't that still the play?
Yes, it is, and he's not seeing it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here comes Trap-like, bringing him back into the game.
Yeah, must have overlooked the E hook on Birth.
Yeah, not easy to see that one.
That, I mean, it's still going to be potentially relevant for the game. So, if Evan knows Birth, he might conclude that Jesse might not know Birth and hold on to an E for the right moment.
Speaking of holding on, looks like there's a hold here on this word. No, I think they're going to let it go and he's going to draw. Okay. A brief hold, apparently. Trap like is good. Jesse Day does play valid words on occasion.
Binac says, it's a trap. Yes, I am seeing that meme in my head right now.
Well, they are
No,
challenging. Okay, there
there's
was a
a
courtesy
challenge.
draw and then a challenge. Okay. All right, so +5 to Jesse. So he's kind of getting back in this game a little bit. With the challenge, he is within 25.
Our chat has pointed out there is also Bertha. A hooks onto Berth as well.
Someone in the chat said maybe he played trip like. Well, maybe. I don't think so though.
Trip like with a Y. Nice.
Sus. Nice.
This rack is very sus. There's ways to play through it, though. You can play Jour, Jours for 24.
What about Jura setting up the S?
Oh, that's interesting as well. Yeah.
He's got there's only one S on scene and both blanks are out.
Yeah, it's a pretty good aggro play there if he does that. It would be very interesting to see how Jesse Day would respond to that.
Of course, Evan doesn't need the aggro play necessarily. He does have the lead. You could play Ruse, Roos, just parallel to Jog. That might keep things a little bit tighter.
Yeah, I did see Ruse, but I'm not sure I like that because it's gonna give Jesse back a lot with the J if he has a JO anything.
True. True.
Also, it's worth noting for Evan when he's considering plays, it's a completely random rack for Jesse Day since he's just finished emptying his rack on the last turn. So if there were a time to potentially make something aggressive like Juror, it would be now while there's not really any read as far as what's left on his rack.
I mean, yeah, the chance that Jesse has an S is actually very low, right? You can just calculate it's 7 out of however many tiles are unseen. How many tiles are unseen?
Oh, a lot?
I was gonna say,
36.
it's about half the game is kind of my
Yeah,
I'd say
36. 7 out of 36. So like like 1 in 6 chance that he has the S. So it's a great deal, I would think.
And he did put down Ruse, well, presumably for Ruse briefly. Maybe he is reconsidering possibly playing Juror or Jour.
Oh, he was going to play Ruse. Look at that. I kind of like it. You do get hit with some kind of J play sometimes, but it's got to be a specific play to fit on the board. I don't know. I kind of like 27 points and decent defense in a lot of cases.
I think Ruse is fine as well.
Let's maybe a little bit of elaboration from the chat. What do you think? Do you think Ruse gives too much away, as Lewis says? Because I personally think Ruse gives a lot back, and if you're going to give stuff back anyway, like Juror, the idea is like, oh, I could give him back a big play with an S. And it's like, well, Ruse, you're kind of giving him back a big play almost regardless for free. So I'm kind of more on the side of Juror, as aggressive as it is. Let's see what else the chat thinks.
As it turns out that Juror would have given him outraves from the O.
Mm.
Because that's what he's just drawn.
I wouldn't say that Jura is that aggressive, honestly. Because, well, maybe that's not quite the right way to phrase the thought. Evan's lead is hovering just under a bingo, so making a play like Jura is not even though he's ahead, it's not a case where like the only way he can lose is a big bingo or something like that.
Alec points out that Evan's rack would be slightly different, and he would actually have avosets under his setup on the next turn if it were not to be blocked, which would be quite interesting. And avosets and Bertha would be playable as well.
Oh yeah, good point. He'd have a different rack.
I agree with the point that Ruse is not as dangerous as it might seem because you need an E to really hit the spot hard. But I think nevertheless, playing Ruse is still leaving some equity on the table.
One Wonderful Fish says, Ruse is fine. You have to have an E in the second position to hit that spot hard. Yeah, that's valid.
Cesar trolling in the chat by remarking that we don't actually know what his new rack would be because the act of playing Ruse would change his hand position and the way he holds the bag, so the tiles drawn will be different. Yes, thank you for your contribution, Cesar.
So Jesse here has some interesting ways to score well at the X and kind of open the board a little bit at the same time. For example, he can play Dixit through the I and Trap Like to the triple. That scores 39 and opens up some new lanes for eights. You can also make a play that hooks the A onto Berth to make Bertha, such as Tax or Taxa or Taxi. And all of those will kind of open up the triple on the far right as well. So a lot of ways for Jesse to kind of turn this into a more dynamic game from here. It's going to get interesting.
I don't think Dixit opens the board. I mean, it gives some lanes for eights, but it interferes with the lanes for sevens next to Trap Light and hooking onto Birth.
That's true.
So in terms of just purely in terms of board management, I would probably try to find something different. But it does, of course, score a lot.
Yeah, it's 6 points more than, like, say, Taxa would be. 39 versus 33. We're also not sure whether Jesse's seeing the hooks on Birth since he did miss one earlier. Oh, actually, we don't even know if he missed one earlier. He might not have known Perkily.
Lewis has the clever suggestion of Taxi and Onyx as far as an unlikely but existing hook for Oni. Very nice. One Wonderful Fish mentions Tax / Bertha. I was also thinking of that as a potential candidate play. Lewis's thoughts further up were to leave the Birth hooks there, which would include Bertha. I'd be curious to see you elaborate a little bit more on that, just as to the reasoning behind that.
Expect Evan is going to play under rules here. Vert is for a lot of points. It's like 46. Does open a lane.
Vanita points out Suaver, and that would be hooking Bertha to make Bertha as an XU. That is a lot of points.
52, yeah, that would have been really nice.
Lewis says regarding leaving Berth alone, they're useful hooks and tough to block without giving a lot away. Yeah, that's a fair point.
So this is the up-to-date score, 325, 258. I think we can call Jesse officially down by a bingo at this point. And don't think he's got one here.
So it looks like Gam is one suggestion. Tagma is another suggestion as far as options for Jesse's next turn.
You can play
Yes,
IGAD.
Yeah. IGAD as well.
Maybe it's EGAD. I don't know how to say words.
I think it is EGAD.
Is this just an alternate spelling of EGAD?
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. It is indeed. Oh my god, ECOD ECOD is also an alternate spelling of EGAD? That's terrible.
I wondered what that meant. That's cool.
And I thought it was an electronic fish all this time.
Jesse is looking under the board for the third blank.
Director!
Alec points out the problem with EGAD is he might need the I for column O. Yeah, as far as like hooking onto the X, definitely.
It is true, as Lewis says, that ideally he want to say something that leaves a vowel hanging out in space. Easier to hope. So maybe gamma under vert. If keeping the I for xi is really a big consideration. How many I's are left?
There's been a lot played. I was just eyeballing the board.
Eyeballing. Good.
Nice. Yes.
There are 2 eyes remaining after this one.
Okay,
25
yeah,
on
something to
2
think
tiles,
about.
and 2 of them are eyes. Getting pretty low on time there, Jesse. Under 6 minutes and a whole lot of tiles still to go.
Jesse using all of his time. Are we shocked? No.
I'm concerned that he's got gammad lined up on his rack. Does he realize that gammad is not a word? Uh-oh, he might not realize it. Okay, good. He's playing gamma. That's fine. Pretty solid play, and he's back to within, 34 points. Not bad.
So I think the some of the potential reasoning behind gamma versus gam is gam just leaves the line under the M available. Gamma does leave a line both above and below that A as far as options.
I'm seeing a request in chat for the unseen tile pool. We can do that for you. There's currently 21 tiles unseen, so 14 in the bag and 7 on Jesse's rack.
Width is a very high score underneath of gamma next turn, assuming it goes unobstructed.
Yeah, I'm not seeing very many plays that would obstruct that, so it is pretty likely to come down, I'd say. A lot of Evan's best plays here are pretty weak. He's just kind of playing off FOU for like 17 in a lot of cases. If he really wants more points, he could play FOE for 26 next to Trap-like, but ACSU is a little bit of a weaker leave.
Especially with the lack of ease, as was pointed out earlier.
Yeah, that's a great point, yeah.
It's kind of surprising that Evan can't do better if he has a balanced rack and scoring tiles. It's somewhat unfortunate.
Pretty surprising, it's true. The only play that scores higher than foe is to play Fucos, either to the left or to the right of the E in Trap-like, and that would be a horrible play, putting an E in the triple-triple for no good reason.
So Alec has pointed out one of the F's showing in the unseen should actually be an H, but otherwise I'm assuming the rest is correct.
I don't think that's accurate.
There's one F on Evan's rack, so it does seem like potentially, or not potentially, literally, he should not have 2 unseen Fs because he's got one.
Oh, that's weird. It looks like what's printing on the screen in Twitch is for some reason a slight bit different than what Quackle is showing.
It's,
I
it's
can-
fixed now.
Oh, it's fixed now. Okay, okay. That might be because it put up the screen before I set the correct rack for Evan. And then there was some lag with the rack updating.
Got it.
Yeah, so oaf, pretty similar idea. You're just kind of getting rid of your F for a little bit of scoring.
And there it is. That leaves several juicy spots for width now.
Yeah, you can play it to the left of oaf for 47, which is even better than the 41 he had lined up before.
Though I do wonder, out of curiosity, ooh, this might be a good time for a pull. Oh, never mind. He's going to make it play right away. I was going to ask which width position the chat prefers, but he's already put it
Yeah,
there.
things might move too fast for pulling at this
Yeah.
point in the game. This is an interesting choice of width, though, because it does set up an S hook, and Evan ends up having the S here.
There's one more S, right? Jesse could draw the S.
Yes, there is one more for Jesse to draw, yes.
338. Oh, yeah. 338 to 345.
We got ourselves a very close game now on the scoreboard with Evan on turn and ahead by 7 points, 345 to 338. And holding a rack that is not great, but he does have that S if he wants to cash it in.
And Jesse does draw the S.
Oh, okay. I think if you're Evan here, you kind of have to just cash in the S now, right? You don't want to let Jesse get his chance at it.
Yeah, and like your options for scoring are very limited otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. You can play cause and widths and score pretty well.
Visage, as Scott Jackson points out, is a lot.
Yeah, exactly. You can't let Jesse have that kind of a play.
Another nice thing about chords is I think it leaves one in the bag. Wait, am I counting correctly?
You are counting correctly. Yeah, there's currently 6 in the bag,
Oh, wait,
and
yeah.
cause will be a 5-tile play. Yeah. So you go up by 41 points. You'd shut down the best bingo lane for your opponent, and you'd be leaving one in the bag. That seems to accomplish everything you want to accomplish.
Lewis points out not many vowels left, and Alec specifically points out the remaining tiles in the bag are all consonants unless you count the Y as a vowel, as some people do. D, F, N, 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 Y.
Well, Evan's leaving EI, so even if he draws 5 consonants, he should still be fine in the end game with a 41-point lead, assuming Jesse doesn't somehow play a bingo.
Yeah, cause looks great.
I guess,
Yeah.
Lewis does point out that cause has a causey, which is
Oh,
but Jesse doesn't have the Y.
all right. Updating your score and your pool now. We're going to have 1 in the bag and a deficit for Jesse of 41 points, down 379, 338.
And Defy and Causey is currently available for Evan if that goes untouched, so that's a massive score that's potentially coming.
Yeah, that's true. Wow.
Can
This
Jesse,
might be a situation. Yeah, go ahead.
can Jesse fish?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
So the V fish, if he's possibly able to do that, would be the ideal one. And Vor is a potential fish that he could do. That's one immediate spot.
Yeah,
And
the chat points out that Vor will actually win because he will draw an N. He's got to be thinking about it. He's 41 down, looks like he needs a bingo. Fishing the V is pretty kind of like jumps out at you.
He's picked up the V. He's leaving the others in his rack now. Question is he going to pull the trigger on it?
Wow.
Pretty crazy end. If it, oh, he's going for it. Wow. So like Defy is not enough to outrun in gates. How much is Defy?
No, it's not. Yeah, Jesse's gonna win.
Beautiful. Love to see it.
That's my line. So assuming perfect play in the end game here, Evan will play Defy for 45, and in gates for 87 will give Jesse a win by 13 points, 437 to 424. And I think Evan is going to realize here that he's just out of luck. There's just nothing he can do.
So while we wait for this to play out in the fashion that we think it will, any particular play you'd like to point at, guys, as far as something that might have made a big difference in the way this game went?
I think it's the play we just saw. It's the fish at the end, right? I mean, this was a close game the whole way, decided by the very end, and Jesse makes the correct fish to win the game.
Yeah. In terms of Evan's plays, I think maybe Jura. I mean, Jura would definitely have changed the way the game went, but I think Jura also would have given him a better chance to win.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about how that would have shaped the board. With that, Scott mentions up build as a potential point to go over. Cesar points out Gamma versus Gam because he believed Gam was the best. And Scott mentions the same thing I did, that Gamma gives an extra lane for a 7 on top of the A and not just the lane below the M with Gam. And that was my thoughts as to why I would have done Gamma probably.
Were there any other draws besides N that would have won the game for Jesse?
Oh, good question, yeah.
Vanita mentions Suaver instead of Vert as a possible difference in terms of plays from Evan's side.
Yeah, Swaver would have been 52 points. It would have put the game almost out of reach just based on sheer outscoring of Jesse, but Jesse would have had a chance to come back.
Yeah, definitely a lot of really interesting decisions based on everything that has been brought up in the chat. Scott, I'm assuming, has Quackle open or has gone through the possible end games. Just the N wins, says Scott. So I guess 3 and 8 was the chance to draw that N.
Yeah.
Decent odds.
I mean, it's beautiful because it bingoes in 2 spots, right? He can play in gates on the far right. He can also play estating through the T in widths. So it is an unblockable bingo out, and it's 3 ends in the bag. So it's a really intuitive fish. Like, it's pretty clear that it's going to work well a lot of the time. There were people in the chat saying, like, it's amazing that he played it that fast. And then I think Scott correctly pointed out that it's a very obvious fish if you think about just the methodology of how you decide to fish. It was very just straightforward decision making.
In this case, yeah, you basically have to, otherwise you're not going to win this game. So we're going to see, very good. So we're going to see the textbook play of Defy.
Yep, and that's the correct play. Nothing else you can do.
Just concede at this point in time. Yeah, that's fair. He's made the best as far as preserving spread.
Maybe he was hoping that Jesse would miss in gates.
And here it comes. Well done.
Yep. So Jesse Bing goes out for the win, and we are going to have a final score of 437 to 424.
37 to 424.
Ooh, quite a morning here on table one. We got some really close, interesting games, especially Dave Wiegand and Ben Schoenman earlier, and then this one as well. So high drama.